Welcome to Season 1 of our brand new podcast, Hey Emma, highlighting the issues of being a teenager.
We'll focus on the similarities and differences in the way we think about a variety of situations in our lives.
Join us on this journey as hopefully it'll be interesting, humorous, and eye-opening to see how a teenage girl thinks today and how her dad supports, opposes, and sometimes changes his mind.
Hey Emma.
Hey Dad.
Today's podcast discusses anxiety and depression in teens and young adults, and even some older adults.
It's a pervasive problem these days, and I'm glad we can cover it. I don't know if we'll cover it in depth, but we can hope it may help at least one person. Okay, let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast. It's Emma here with...
Dad. How are you doing, Emma?
I'm doing great. How about you, Dad?
Good. Glad to see you. Damn glad to meet me, huh?
Yeah. Yes.
So today we're going to talk about mental illness, only because it is something that's hit close to home very recently, but it's something that's been hitting close to home for a long time. I know you've struggled with some anxiety issues, and so
Yes.
have I. And both my mom and my sister both have been treated for depression. I mean, it's something that's hit our home pretty close, as well as now a good friend of yours. You want to talk about that friend?
Yes, I'm not going to say her name, but she was a neighborhood friend from, since I was born, and she was a little older than me, but she would always hang out, and she would either come over to our house just to play, or she would watch us, babysit us, and then just recently she has developed a mental illness, they say, or severe depression. And she ended up having to go to Florida for a little while to rehabilitate in a hospital. And then now she's living in North Carolina for up to a year in this group home to help get her back into shape again. So
Right. Yeah, she was an amazing part of our family. I mean, not a direct relative, but she was just such a warm, loving, tender person. She not only babysat you guys, but, she had dinner with us. She was just a wonderful, neighbor, friend, and person.
Yeah.
And she would just come over and play with you guys sometimes and, just color, chalk on the sidewalk or, play basketball or whatever.
And she connected with all of us. It wasn't just like a certain couple of us, because there's three of us and of the girls in our family, and she connected with each and every one of us in her own way. And just to see this go all downhill for her is just really surprising for me, and I didn't expect it to happen at all, because she was the most positive person I knew. And
well, what you probably didn't know is that she has suffered from problems for a very long time, because I know she was bullied in school, and she was bullied a lot, and made to feel very, very bad about herself. And I'm not even sure why. She's a very tall, pretty girl, so I'm not sure where the bullying came from, but obviously they felt that she was vulnerable for some reason, and they took advantage of that. She had a really tough time in high school.
Well, hadn't had a lot of experiences at school at all, because she's been homeschooled for most of her life.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, she did not have a good, strong base of friends going into high school, because she didn't have the middle school experience or the elementary school experience. So not that that's right or wrong, because I think her homeschool experience was pretty amazing, seeing as how she's very intelligent and very entered high school at quite a bit ahead of where the rest of her classmates were. But anyway, back to the mental illness part. So now, when you found out about where this close friend was, you were very visibly upset about it, even though her future is so much more positive now than where it was even 6 months ago. What do you think upset you so much about it?
I don't know. I mean, it hit me like a rock. I didn't think she would be going through this thing at all, because I've known her to be a role model to me, and always staying positive. She literally wrote me a letter for the first day of high school telling me about all these things, and how God will always be with me. And she's very religious too, and I just didn't expect that to come from her. So, and just, I guess, the closeness that I've had with her has really struck hard with me. Just how I always worry about my other friend who has been in mental hospitals and a bunch of different things going on with her, just because she was really close to me when I was little, and it's
really hard. Now, you had some issues yourself where you came to me and said that you thought you needed to be in either hospitalized or in some sort of a facility. How does that relate to what you think you were going through?
I don't know. I really don't know what I was going through. It might have just been a depression patch or something, but even now I struggle with trying to keep myself positive and like being like loving myself or whatever, but it's just something that I guess all everybody goes through, so it's just some people have it more serious than others.
What do you think feeds your struggle with loving yourself?
Well, just that whenever I do something that I think is stupid or embarrassing, or like I mess up with something, then I just start beating down on myself, like, oh my gosh, you're so stupid, this is the worst thing ever, you're stupid and just horrible and you shouldn't. I'm
familiar with those feelings. Now that I'm considerably older, I laugh at myself much easier. I find that it's so much easier to just say, okay, that was stupid, and move on.
Yeah, but I
don't think you're at that point.
Yeah, I eventually move on from it. I just accept that, well, it was stupid, but, I just move on, whatever. But it's just much harder for me. I take it much harder on myself, I guess, because I have more emotions. I'm a girl. No.
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think you just are...
Raging hormones.
Could be raging hormones. It could be, I don't know. It could be that you just think more deeply because you're more introverted, so you tend to think, and then you think more, and then you kind of spiral in your thinking, and it sometimes gets out of control. I'm familiar with that sensation.
Especially, I've had a couple of panic attacks back in my day. Like my first one, I think, was in 4th or 5th grade, and you wouldn't think something like that would happen to someone younger, but I mean, I guess that's what temper tantrums are, in a way.
Kind of. What do you think triggered their panic attack back then?
Just from like embarrassment and anger and sadness, all rushing, this huge rush of emotions, and I just got overwhelmed in too short of a time, and I guess.
Is that the one where you were at the bus stop at the corner? And then the neighbor brought you home because you had broken down, and well, actually, she didn't even bring you home. You came running home before the bus even came. Yeah, we were pretty worried about you then. Yeah,
and then I've had a couple more after that. So.
Yeah, tell me about another one.
Another one was actually during a block party. I had not unintentionally injured another kid on our street. And I went home thinking, oh, it's no big deal. But then the more I got to thinking about it, I started breaking down. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Why did I do this? Oh, geez. When all I really did was I was pressing my finger, and then my nail dug into there and caused him to bleed. But it was a pretty stupid thing. But just oh my gosh, I should have said sorry or something. But
you really beat yourself up over it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool how they're portraying it. They're definitely portraying mental illness much better in the media these days. Because
now, you mean by portraying it better? You mean they're doing a better job of covering it, or
yes, they're doing a better job of covering it and
downplaying it.
No, yeah, they're definitely bringing awareness to it and telling people ways to solve this. They have a whole Disney Channel has definitely brought upon this issue and have told people ways to solve it, because on the TV show Andy Mack, I know one of the main characters, Jonah, had a panic attack, and it was so real, and you could actually. It definitely gave people something to connect to, but also afterwards they made a video on how, ways to solve it, and that is definitely, a good way to not only address the issue but help solve the issue. So
Yeah, it was a good episode. They didn't play it down. I mean, there's only so much you can do in a half-hour episode of any topic.
yeah.
But they didn't play it down, and they did show what it feels like when you're having a panic attack, and that sudden rush of emotion, and not being able to catch your breath, and just the panic that sets in.
Yeah.
I think it was well covered. And then you're right. I mean, at the end they did kind of a prologue where they talked about mental illness and panic attacks and getting help, and they gave there was an 800 number, I believe, where you could call to get some help. And I don't know, I just, you're right, I think they're covering it more and better these days.
Yeah, that's definitely what helps. And yeah, it's just, it's hard for everyone. And I see, like, after that episode that aired, everybody, like, on Instagram, all of my friends that watched that show were like, oh my gosh, I totally can relate to this. I know what he's going through. And I thought that was just a huge milestone for them, because they were able to touch hearts or touch home with a whole bunch of people who were going through the same thing. And I didn't expect it to happen, but just that it did, it was really, especially something that, since it's something I can relate to also, it's really important that they did that. And they did a really good job.
Why do you think so many kids are suffering from anxiety and panic attacks these days? Is it, I don't know if it's more than in the past, but I know when I was in school, I don't remember it happening very much.
I really don't know. It's just we have so much negative, way more negative influences in our life now that this is the new millennial. We have all of these political conflicts, and we have way more social conflicts with social media and stuff. I think the more beating down on the teenagers will definitely bring upon more stressors to everybody.
So you're thinking you're more aware of what's going on in the world that's causing anxiety? Or?
Well, just, yeah, all of the political things that are happening, like whatever's going on in their area, because in all of the social media brings upon a whole bunch of new stressors, and like all these portrayals in the media of like, oh, am I good enough? And it's just so many more stressors that are bringing upon these teenagers that they probably didn't have back then.
Well, we definitely had lots of stressors. There were a lot of international incidents going back in the 80s and when I was in the 70s and 80s when I was in school. And we were aware of them. But you're right, they weren't in our face all the time. We did not have social media. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers in every house.
Yeah.
It was a different time. Most of our news came from the 6 o'clock news in the evening on the TV, and which I rarely watched. So a lot of it would come from discussions with mom and dad about what was going on. And I don't know if we were blissfully ignorant. We had our own stressors. I mean, because we were still, me and my friends, we were still really good students. We studied, we did a good job in school. Granted, a lot of it came very easy to us, and we went to a relatively easy school. But we worked hard, and we played, and I think we had a good balance in our lives where we did have time to play. I'm not sure you have a lot of time to play anymore.
Yeah, I think definitely school is another one of those things that just brings people down. Not the people necessarily all that much, but just all the new tests that we have to take, and the stressor for taking AP classes, the best classes, and being the best in the class, and all these different things.
There's definitely a lot of competition going on in the school, which I am really I'm frustrated, but I'm also a little bit as a parent, I want you to have a competitive streak. I don't want it to be a cutthroat competitive streak, but I want you to be competitive in the marketplace when you get out and get a job. Ultimately, that may not be what you want for yourself. So that's something I've got to, pump the brakes on what I want for you. But, I want you to be happy. Ultimately, that's what I want. When there's so many pressures on you and you're feeling anxiety and you're feeling guilt for something that you may have inadvertently done to somebody, you're spinning out of control, you've got the anxiety going on, a future panic attack, whatever it is, that's not obviously what I want for you. What I want for you is to be happy. maybe I've contributed to that too. I'm sure I have.
Yeah.
And so for that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and another thing that I know